YouTube.
I'll keep smiling just in case.
Hi, everyone. Oh, we are live. Yay, it's working.
And the dog's barking in the back because that's the way it goes.
The dogs are barking, but we love them.
We do.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to The Writer's Journey, the show where we are on a journey together to learn more about writing success. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the quick thinking Kayleen Williams, whom I desperately need on the show for all of her quick thinkingness. Tonight, we're asking a very tough question. How do I write when life gets hard? Because it does, guys. It does for all of us. It does for me. It does for Kayleen. It does for Martha. We're all going to go through difficult times at some point or other. But how do we see it through to the other side as authors? How can we keep up with our writing? Should we try? Should we keep up with our writing when life gets hard? We're going to look at these questions and more on tonight's episode. And our guest tonight is Martha Carr. Martha worked as a syndicated columnist at the Washington Post before turning her pen to writing fiction. Now she's a best-selling author writing urban fantasy for her bread and butter, is currently releasing her first solo series, The Key Brain Adventures, and consistently ranks near the top of Amazon charts in science fiction and fantasy. So thank you for joining us tonight and welcome to the show.
Thank you. And just one small correction. So the Washington Post, I was a syndicated columnist and wrote for the Washington Post, but was not a columnist at the Washington Post.
Okay. Two things then.
Two things.
And then you wrote about politics that year.
I did.
Pretty exciting. Very cool. I love politics. And fiction, fantasy, which is what we're talking about tonight.
Right. And so being an author.
And being an author, yeah.
Yeah.
So how's everyone doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I am trying not to look frantic. I didn't realize the fair was going on. Excuse me. And so we had an impromptu, let's go to the fair day. Like I still have the wristband on and the glasses that are giving me a headache. So yeah, that was fun. It was good times. So.
Yeah, I saw pictures of your daughter and she had awesome makeup all over her face.
She did. She did. She did like a full face paint this time. So
nice.
And
I hear the bird.
Oh, can you hear him?
I can.
Yeah. He's in like anyway, he's super loud. And my door's closed. So
that is impressive.
Got some lunch. Cool. What about you, Lauren?
I'm working on the space opera anthology. I'm working through the initial round of edits and they're going good. I'm very excited about these stories. Looking forward to getting it all finished. Working on some editing projects and I'm just nibbling away at this space opera I'm writing. Every morning I'm getting up and I'm trying to work through the next scene and I just got another chapter done and feel really relieved about that.
That's the way you do it. Nibbling. Yeah. A lot can be done with nibbling away. I just had an urban, it's called Urban Magic, an anthology come out that took Amazon 13 days to let it go. I think I hold the record now.
Wow.
13 days.
13 days. How did you feel?
There were moments where I would think, oh yeah, there's an anthology. Because it took, but everybody had a good sense of humor. It eventually came out. All the money from it goes to the American Library Association's Disaster Relief Fund. And it's 10 authors. Michael Anderle's in there. Nazri Noor, lots of great ones. But 13 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time. It's like almost 2 weeks where you're just waiting for Amazon to come through.
They thought there might be a problem, and so it took a lot of emails and chatting, and somebody finally took ownership of it and walked around and asked all the people, and voila, it was out.
Wow.
So I had a feeling eventually it would come out. I just had to hang in there.
Yeah. So what's the name of that anthology?
Urban Magic, Hungry, Young, and Clever.
Hungry, Young, and Clever. Love it. Very good.
Urban Magic's the title of it, and the subtitle is Hungry, Young, and Clever because that's how we see ourselves.
Yeah. Kayleen, what are you working on?
Let's see. I still have my super secret project. We are looking at some cover artists right now so that we can actually get some art in and then be like, bam, reveal. So stay tuned. Super excited.
That reveal is coming.
hopefully I have no ETA on that, but hopefully soon, like, definitely before the year is out for sure. And then of course the space opera, I just got my edits back from you, so I'm gotta look through those and working on other client edits. And
so you guys are doing the space opera together. That's awesome.
She's an author in the anthology. And then
in the editor.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, this is something that Keystroke Medium kind of as a team, we're wanting to give back to our fan base and give back to the community. And part of the way we do that is by holding these anthologies to give authors a chance to submit and to get feedback, and then to work through the editing process and get published, get their names out there. So
very nice.
Yeah, I was nervous about this one too because I've never done like full-on space opera type, like consciously. And so yeah, I was just like, oh, I made it through. Okay, I can do it. Shake it out.
Now, Martha, earlier you said that nibbling away is sometimes one of the best ways to get your writing done. And tonight's topic is about how to write through the difficult times. And sometimes a little bit a day is, all we can manage when we're going through, stress, some stressful situations where events are out of our control. And now this is how I first heard about you. I was at the 20 Books to 50K conference, and all of a sudden everyone was like, Martha Carr is speaking. I'm like, who is Martha Carr? You've got to go and listen to her talk. Okay. So I go up there, go to the room, and the doors won't open because it's packed, filled with people. There isn't even standing room for more people to fit in. So I had to wait. And then I heard later about how wonderful it was and how inspiring it was. And part of what people were saying was that you shared your story of the things that kind of life threw at you and how you dealt with them and how you worked through them. So I was just hoping that tonight you could share some of that story with our audience.
Sure. Yeah. So, and also I like this topic because authors tend to work by themselves, and somehow we all convince ourselves that our situation's unique and it's too tough to overcome. And if you know of one person in front of you who went through what you did and came out the other side, sometimes it's all you need in order to keep going. So that's why I make a point of talking about it too, so that you understand that it's possible to get through anything. So let's see, about 10 years ago almost, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Clearly they were wrong. They gave me a year to live, a 1% chance of living longer than a year. My son jokingly refers to me as a 1%er now. I hope it's true someday. And, but it was the amazing thing that came from it was I really got the chance to look at what I was doing in life. And I had a lot of critical success as an author, but not financial. And yet I was still thrilled with where I was. And I mean, how many people get to really answer that on a bone level? And a lot of the lessons I got from that, I ended up keeping even after I went into remission and they never could figure out why. And the funny part was they said, you now have a 35% chance. And I thought, woohoo. And it never occurred to me that 35 was still low. But when you go from 1 to 35, it's like, I did it.
You get skyrocketed, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then when the Great Recession hit, I was a journalist, and boy, that was an amazing time. They were closing newspapers that were profitable. And friends of mine who had won big awards were laid off. And at one point I was ghostwriting a memoir and had my stuff in storage and keys in my hand, and that was about it. And I just thought, this is interesting. But at the same time, it felt kind of freeing because for a minute, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. But what I did was I kept going, and I just kept looking for the next assignment and being open to whatever came, and I got the chance to do a nonfiction book and lived on different U.S. orphanages for 2 years. It's the best kept secret of something we're actually doing well in America. More kids go to college from U.S. orphanages than from the general population.
Wow.
And I know.
Nice.
Everything I thought I knew about orphanages was wrong. So that was, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you have to take things as the whole. If you're going to be upset about the month to month or even the whole year, it's going to be a rough ride because you're going to have highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes, it takes the ability to be able to step back and say, am I okay? Also, the better you do, the more you start to compare yourself to those ahead of you. And if I do that, I'll never appreciate where I am because there's always going to be somebody ahead of me. There's always going to be a group ahead of me. There's always going to be people passing me. And we're very fortunate because we hang out in 20 books. But the downside of that can be we know how everybody else is doing. And it gets easier to compare when you can see what everybody else is doing. And so sometimes life hits and you might feel like you're getting left on the sidelines or things aren't going as you hoped. And so you may not be able to write. And by the way, I cannot write as fast as you 30-year-olds. I can't do it. I used to be able to. I can't anymore.
You can write plenty faster than me.
And so it comes down to, can I make peace with who I am? Can I be happy with who I am? So I have this philosophy that the universe in general loves me, and it loves you. It loves who you are. If that's the case, then I can let go of having to prove something that I'm worthwhile, that I'm okay, and I can stop taking in information as personal. Sometimes when we can't, so here's the thing that happens. Somebody else says they can write 5,000 words a day and I can only do 1,500. And I think, well, I'll never get anywhere. And so instead of taking it in as data, I'm taking it in as personal. If I can stop and say, okay, I can do 1,500 words a day. What can I do with that? And just operate off it as data.
Right.
Then I'm going to be able to do something. So writing 5,000 words is out of my control. There's no point in worrying about that. So what can I do with the 1,500? Where can I change? And that way I'm going to end up being happy. A good example, so a good friend of mine, Abby Lynn Knorr, she writes urban fantasy as well. And she would send me notes that she was sitting overlooking the Tuscan Valley while writing. And I wrote faster than Abby, but who was smarter? And I mean, her quality of life I think was a bit better than mine. Abby Lynn's so smart about quality. So she does that sort of thing all the time. She'll write and say, I'm done for the day. And she just married a very handsome Turkish man. And she'll write and say, we're going to go bicycling through the English countryside. So that that's a kind of a long-winded way of saying you have to ask yourself, what's important to me, and it's got to be an inward thing instead of an outward thing. There's the difference between belonging and fitting in. If I'm trying to fit in, then I'm trying to match you. I'm trying to match Craig Martell's long list of books he's about to do this year. That's fitting in. I'm taking the data as personal and saying, I wish I could do this. If I'm trying to belong, then I'm going to be me. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to ask myself, do you even want that? Does this fit where you are right now? Are you having a tough year and you need to take it slower? And is the question I need to ask, if I'm not making enough from the books because I need to take it slower, then I need to ask, where will I make it up? And maybe it'll have nothing to do with books. All of that is okay. And so now instead of saying, I don't look like you, I'm asking what's right for me. It's a totally different conversation. Did that make sense?
It does.
I was going to say, did you learn that as a course of just kind of growing up or as a reporter, or did you learn that as a course of like staring death in the face and defying it?
I'll tell you one thing that happened staring death in the face, because I still remember it to this day. This very sweet student nurse came in and said, "How are you doing?" And I know she was trying to practice striking up a conversation. And I used to be a horrible people pleaser, where I was always far more concerned with how you were than how I was. And it had serious consequences, but I was close to death, allegedly. And so I said to her, I'm sorry, I don't have time to take care of you today. And she backed out of the room. And I thought, wow, yeah. And that was the end of it for me. I got over it, and I never went back, and I stopped taking care of the world. And because of that, for the first time, I started asking myself, well, what do you want? And I learned that the most powerful question there is on earth is, what do you want?
Yeah, we got that question from Michael Anderle.
Yeah.
Well, and he's right. And you ask it all the time. What do you want? And for a long time, when people say, "What do you want?" I'd answer what other people like. I'd tell you how my son was or how somebody else was. I had no clue what I wanted. And that's okay if you don't know, but keep asking until you can answer it. Then when you get hit in the face with something hard, like you're sick or you're feeling depressed, still ask the question, because that's a different answer than how will I do this? That's a different question. First, figure out what you want. And that'll take care of the other answer. If what you want is to feel peace and take a break, then you know what to do. This may not be a year you put out much. That's okay. We will all still be here. And I can tell you, I have a 30-year writing career to look back on. And some years you're going to put out a lot, and other years you're not, and it'll all add up to a life.
That's a good perspective, that like long-term kind of thinking.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of being. I turned 60 in 2 weeks, by the way. And
happy early birthday.
Thank you very much. And that's one of the benefits, is being able to finally get it, that it's not, I thought individual things were so important, and they were an experience. Enjoy the experience. You're going to get to the end, and you're going to look back and think, what kind of time did I have? When I was going through I've had cancer 7 times, so I'm very good at it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Cancer pro, man.
Cancer pro. The oncologist and I were very close. And the first time, though, I just really got the chance to get that whole meaning of it's going to be about how you feel about. I had no furniture, no money at the time, and yet when I look back at that whole time frame, I have such fond memories of the people I had gathered around me.
You had a strong support system.
I did. I had a really strong support system, and I purposely surrounded myself only with people who were willing to talk to me about solution. And I did not allow anyone to gasp or tell me their story or say, "I'm so sorry." I mean, I just couldn't do that with people anymore.
So that kind of brings up a question that probably anyone wants to know. So if you have a friend who's going through something like cancer, what should you say? Like, how can you help? How should you say?
You already said it. You say, "How can I help?" And then just listen, because you're not going to be able to solve it. You can't cure it. And not letting someone feel however they choose to feel is a form of disrespect. Sometimes we want to make someone feel better. That may not be how they want to feel that day. And not allowing them to be where they are is kind of a form of disrespect. Mm-hmm. And just because you may be in a very sad place, I can be present with you, but I don't have to be sad with you. So it's not like it's going to drag me anywhere, but I can at least sit with you and witness it and be there. But how can I help is perfect, because it lets the other person tell you, instead of you imparting on them all the wisdom you got off the internet. I got a lot of cinnamon for some reason that year. That was apparently a very good thing for cancer that year. I don't know, but I ate it all. I used it all.
For my granddad, it was turmeric.
Oh, okay.
He had pancreatic cancer, and he decided, let's go with turmeric.
I got cinnamon.
It's delicious on cinnamon rolls. So
I know, and it was I used it all, and it was high quality cinnamon because I guess if you're going to send it, you're going to get the really good stuff.
Ooh,
Nice.
premium cinnamon. I desperately want that on a Cinnabon right now. Totally going to do a horrible switch of Cinnabons to questions.
Okay.
So you had mentioned earlier something that spurned in my mind, you know, when we as writers reach that point of like burnout, or when we, you know, it's like we just need to take a break, but we keep, you know, everyone keeps saying, push through, just keep writing, you know, except at some point, you know, you do need to step back and reevaluate. So how would you describe helping an author recognize these moments that, no, you don't need to push anymore. You just need to stop, breathe, and reevaluate?
So if somebody came to me and said that, my first question would be, well, what do you want? And then I would listen for the answer, because they may not clearly know what they want either. At this point, they may have confused expectations with desire, and it may take a kind of a mapping it out. And then at the end of the conversation, they may still not know, but they may have a better idea of the various 3 or 4 choices. And then it's a chance to let yourself kind of live it for the next week or two, because I think the answer becomes clear. If you allow it, the answer becomes clearer and clearer. There's no need to react. You can respond instead. And a good response sometimes takes a little time, but it's a willingness to at least listen. So instead of pushing at, you know, often when we're hitting burnout, we're pushing at what we see as the inevitable. And instead, we could be saying, what are you here to teach me? And listen. It's fear. And my favorite acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
So we make up this narrative where we say, this is why I can't do this. And then we forget we made up this narrative. And instead, if we can just stop and say, you know, I really don't know. I don't know. I am tired and I'm frustrated and things haven't been going the way I wanted, or maybe these other things are going on. And right now I don't know. And what I want is a little calm. Well, okay, so what does calm look like? And like, I try to go swimming in the morning because it's kind of like meditation underwater, and it's exercise, even though I'm super slow. I mean, only the very elderly I can pass. Everybody else swimming right by me. But I feel super strong because my head's underwater and I can't see where everybody else is. But you have to find the things. So if somebody's saying that, then we're already working on what does it look like for you? And it's okay to claim it and try it. And, you know, if you fall what you call behind, if your books sell less, or you don't meet a deadline, first of all, I would tell whoever you owe a book to, this is what I'm going through. You know, communicate. Don't make them find you.
Yeah, communicate that early.
Communicate it as soon as you can, and say, this is what's happening. And you don't need to give a long explanation, or what's really a justification, and if you do, you're arguing for your own worth at that point. It's not necessary. It can be super short. I am going through some difficulties right now, and this deadline may not be doable. I'm not sure when it will be, but I will communicate with you as soon as I know more. And it's okay, you know, to not know, and give yourself like the free space to find out what's going on. What does it look like? And it doesn't mean that you won't come back at some point, maybe rearranged how you're doing it. And, you know, your best work could be ahead of you. I have to think about how old I am all the time. I was 57 when I met Michael, 56. And had not been a financial success. I paid the bills, but that was about it. And, you know, kept at it and went and got a corporate job, which was great because every 2 weeks there's a paycheck.
Right.
And had a insurance card in my wallet. It was just fantastic. and stayed open to what might come up. So Michael appeared, and there it was. So we don't often give ourselves permission to say, this is what I want, because we're now tied to the expectation of ourselves mostly and somebody else. But if we can let the expectation go, and again, it goes back to, if the universe loves all of us in general, then we have nothing to prove. So we can stop with the expectation and tell the truth. So you tell the truth. I don't know when this book will be done. I'm going through some things, but I will let you know as soon as I do. It may take a while. Then you can let the truth do its own work. And suddenly you have let go of the kind of this false front. That's what I was saying about fitting in or belonging. You're fitting in when you're trying to meet a deadline you just can't do because of other circumstance, or because you just don't want to. You really don't want to. You're now trying to fit in. You're no longer trying to belong. That means you aren't being you. Nobody really knows who you are, and it must feel kind of lonely. But when I can say, here's a good example. I have a math learning disability, which I usually told no one because I was embarrassed by it. I was a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch and did really well. And on the Series 7, I answered none of the math questions. I did not even attempt them, because I knew you needed a 70% to pass, and I made sure I could do all the other questions, and I passed. That's all you need. And I knew the computer would figure out all the math later, but I never told anyone. So I run into Michael Anderle, and what does he want to do for a freaking series, to open the Orchestrated universe, but this stupid thing about the gates and 20,000 years, and the math went on forever. And he couldn't figure out why I couldn't keep it straight. I finally had to tell him. And that's what I mean by fitting in and belonging. I was trying to fit in and look like, okay, I got it. And I did not have it. And once he knew the truth, then he knew how to deal with it, and it was fine. And I was so worried about looking stupid or less than. Same thing with ads, cost per click. Ugh. I'm never going to be able to do it because I just can't see the numbers. So at first, I don't know, everybody would go on about, if only you can figure out these Facebook ads, your life will be serene. And I had to find somebody who could do it for me. It's, as long as you're trying to fit in, it could be a tough road. If you're not asking the question, what do I want? You're trying to fit in. In order for me to be authentic, I have to keep saying, well, what do you want? And make peace with it.
So how do you look within yourself and kind of discern whether it's whether it's an expectation that others have put on you?
So when I am not sure, I have a circle of people I can talk to who won't gasp and who won't talk to me as if it's a problem, who are more interested in the solution. And so it gives me the chance to say it out loud. And then they can, instead of telling me what I should do, they offer suggestions, knowing it's up to me. And that helps me to clarify what part of it is me trying to not let anyone down or not look bad or try to get somewhere, and what part of it do I actually want to do. And sometimes you have to, right now my business is growing, and it's turned out to be harder than I thought, and it's all a mind game. It's not hard. It's I'm just not used to this. I'm not used to having to manage a business. I mean, I was just trying to write a book, and suddenly I have a business. And so I have I'm finding it's necessary for me to have conversations all the time so that my head stays straight, because I think what I'm trying to say to people all the time is, what if I fail? And the answer is, then you do. Then on that day, how about you worry about it on that day? I haven't quite let it go yet, though. I've about worn myself out from talking about it. Hopefully I've completely worn myself out. Not sure yet.
Well, I think that's something that all of us kind of struggle with, thinking about, what if I fail with this book? What if I get it all written and then the audience just doesn't love it?
This is the one that makes it all.
What if I write 5 books
think.
Well, you know, I
Yeah.
had an entire series that managed to go nowhere. Redid the covers, whatever. Still, I mean, I was not meant to write thrillers, apparently. I mean, the universe does not want me writing thrillers at all, and boy, did it make it clear. And so sometimes you go get a corporate job, like I did, and you say, okay, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to step back. I'm going to give myself a chance to have a steady paycheck with an insurance card, and they had a Starbucks in the building. And I'm going to get off work and be able to have a life at night, but I'm going to stay open. If the things change and I find an opportunity, I'm open to it. But I'm going to give myself a break. That was what my answer was. I needed a break from the up and down, and it was lovely. It was great. It was so, you know, how people say I hate working in a cubicle. I loved it. I knew where to be. I needed a little, like, here's what to do. And then one day I meet Michael Anderle and things changed. And right now the answer is I need to enjoy where I am and do the next thing in front of me and stop trying to predict the future. And by the way, when I predict the future, I'm never predicting, you know, sunshine and unicorns. I'm predicting apocalyptic meltdown. And both are possible. So, you know, I might as well sit here trying to picture how wonderful it's going to be. And I can also give you a little tip that I use when I'm truly stuck and all I can do is like think about myself, because that's basically what that is me. What am I supposed to be doing now? Somebody taught that to me. When you really cannot stop thinking about that squirrely thing that's going around, what are you supposed to be doing now? It could be making the bed. It could be eating dinner. It's just whatever. Go do that. And what I learned from doing just that was that the universe actually takes care of itself 95% of the time, maybe even 99.5% of the time. It doesn't need me staring at it 100% of the time. I mean, what shocked me was I used to, again, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to my personality. And before that, I would try and figure out how to solve something. And until it was solved, I was going to stare at it, talk about it, investigate it. Surely I could solve it. And, you know, when someone tells you you're dying, there's only but so much you can do. And so suddenly I was making peace with the world. And my shoulders dropped. I got more comfortable. And I started to like notice people around me, and I learned how to be happy. Suddenly what I want mattered. And fortunately, I just didn't lose that trait. But that's when someone taught me that, well, what are you supposed to be doing now? Go do that. And so I would do, remember how you said you're chipping away, nibbling away at the space opera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I learned that nibbles add up. And great things can be built from nibbles. We don't give enough credit to nibbles. We're so big on, I wrote 10,000 words today. Well, I know a guy in Las Vegas, and I wish I could remember his last name or I'd give him a shout out. But he does no ads. He's an outlier. I don't recommend it. And he writes kind of slow, and he's doing super well. I saw his shiny red Jeep he bought last year. And my point is, he made peace completely with himself. And he said, I'm going to do it my way. If it succeeds, great. And if it doesn't, oh, well. And he's happy. And so I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to figure out what is it I want and how can I be happy? And happiness will be the goal, and not being the top of the heap or making X amount. And by the way, I forget that from time to time. And it's that tribe of people who remind me that I'm no longer concerned about being happy. I'm concerned about some goal that I decided on and I'm attached to. It's the being happy part that matters to me.
I love that. I mean, ultimately, whatever you do, I mean, should certainly make you happy.
You know that delay thing you asked me about earlier? I think it has struck.
And I'm right there early. It's happened now.
It's
Guys
all right.
in the chat,
You asked, we'll be patient and wait.
Well, Martha,
Ours is great.
hopefully it. Good. Martha, earlier you were talking about your support system, but before we talk about building a support system and where we can look for to find that, I think we might have a sponsor read.
Yes, I was going to segue, but yes, we definitely have a show sponsor. Tonight is brought to you by the Lost Starship, books 1 through 3, The Complete Saga, Elixr, Redeemer, Destroyer, by Joshua James. Save the cure, kill the crew. That was the dying order of the captain of the starship Elixr. The ship followed the order. Then it lost its mind. 2 decades later, the last chance to save billions of souls rests with the dead starship's only occupants, a pair of boys raised by a deranged robot. When Elixr crashes on a barren world, they join forces with an impoverished girl living on the edge of society to search for answers. Who are they? Why have they survived? And what could Elixr possibly do to save a world on the precipice of collapse? The more they learn, the greater the stakes become. Soon, they are running for their lives from secret societies, deadly creatures, and powerful warlords. As enemies multiply, it seems the secrets of the Lost Starship may never be discovered. But Elixr is hiding more than secrets, much more. The Lost Starship box set includes, once again, Elixr, Redeemer, Destroyer. Fans of fun, action-packed sci-fi will have a blast with the Lost Starship series. Click, buy now! NC.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was really good. Oh, speaking of awkward segues.
Oh. Sorry, I had a chat request of Doom. So.
Oh. We always have room for more Doom. Okay, well, speaking of awkward segues. So, your support system was really important for you getting through facing down cancer 7 times and you getting through
it was vital.
Your series.
Absolutely vital.
So what can someone do if they're going through a hard time in life? Maybe it's depression, maybe it's they lost their job, maybe it's someone close to them who's sick, maybe it's themselves going through a hard time and they're looking around and they're saying, I don't have a support system. Maybe they're far away from their family or whatever it could be. How can we start to find that support system and build it out? Nurture it?
So you're looking for people who are like-minded, and if you're depression, that's a tougher one because the idea that you want to go to a meetup is probably not going to happen. But there are support groups for people with depression. It is going to take some walking out that door and showing up in a space, and with people who understand what you're going through without being told, who won't ask you 50 questions that are kind of inappropriate, but they mean well. And it's amazing how helpful it is to be able, when I first had cancer, it's like you're in this club you never wanted to be in. So every time I ran into somebody who was also had a serious cancer going on, we would babble at each other like we were long lost souls and we had just met. And that would tell me, oh, I really needed somebody to talk to, because I just met this person and we were just talking over each other, because the person at the time who understood on a soul level what I was going through. Same is true if you're struggling, whatever you're struggling, but it's the face-to-face that matters. Virtual is great, but it's really not the same. And if you can, some people would call it God with skin, but for those who, the person in front of you who will listen to you, who understands, sometimes that's, and groups that are, every town has groups devoted to a million different things. And you can find them online as to where to go and show up. And I know it takes so much courage to go up at that door. That's the hard part. But those people sitting there are looking for you. They went up The ones who are feeling better but still they're going so that you have somebody to greet you when you get there. They're happy to see you because that's why they're there. And they're going to be able to tell you about other resources you knew nothing about because they've already done all the footwork. And you're going to tell them your story and they're going to tell you theirs, and it's going to match. And you're going to suddenly understand the thing that you're going through that feels so unique, and how does anyone do it? And they're still upright. And it's just amazing. You know, Alcoholics Anonymous started as the Oxford group. Well, the precursor to it was called the Oxford group. And it did well to a point. What made the difference, the whole difference for that entire 12-step program, was one person telling another their story. And the whole reason it works now is you have a person in front of you who you don't, whatever you tell them, they're not going to guess because they've lived it. So if you're in financial distress, like if you haven't paid your taxes and if you're hoping no one ever finds out, and there's a group that you can go to. There's one called Debtors Anonymous. But you're going to find like-minded people where you can finally tell the truth. The whole theme of tonight should be, we're going to figure out a way to tell the truth. Most of the time it's to yourself. I mean, when you ask, what do I want? What you're trying to do is tell yourself the truth. And we're really only as sick as our secrets. So when I stop telling the truth to myself, act like I am all that, you know, because I'm doing so well, but days where I think, so I'm trying a new business venture. Well, it's a small little thing where we're doing a lunchbox with a book in it. And I think, what if no one cares? What if for Christmas everyone's getting a lunch? And I was acting like I wasn't afraid of that, and it was me. And really, that's Lois, by the way, and she's deaf, so I can't yell at her. Hear me.
Oh.
And so he likes to talk. So hello.
It's okay, Lois. It's okay.
I think Lois wants to be on the show.
Or you either.
If you can hear me, Lois, you're
would
adorable.
Love to. Lois is adorable. Sometimes she just likes to bark and Leela me. But anyway, I totally lost my train of thought.
You're talking about telling the truth to yourself.
Right, you're right. So that's really all we're talking about tonight, is telling the truth. And it becomes a much more layered thing. It's not a realize you're lying to yourself, or I don't realize I am. Like, you know, for example, when I go to conferences, sometimes people want me to behave as if everything's great because I am doing well. And I will buy into it occasionally and try not to spoil it for them. And really what I need to say is, you know, I hope this book doesn't suck. And I also, you know, Michael and I have done series that haven't done as well as others, but we have to like put it down, and move on to the next. Day is rosy. And I still have to say, what do you want? Especially now, I'm not used to this territory. And so sometimes I forget to ask, and that's a form of lying to myself. And now I'm trying to fit in instead of be myself. And I have to start and maybe go find someone to talk to who I know will tell me the truth, but without judgment. And we'll say, you know, this is what it seems like. And I'll get a chance to hear myself out loud. And I'll get back to, okay, this is what I want. And stop and let go of, I mean, I have a competitive streak. I'd like to, you know, be out there ahead of everybody. Not going to happen. And it's not what I want. It's not even what I want. I just, you know, when I was a stockbroker, they would, there's this horrible machine. I don't know if they still do it, that ranks everybody and it's according to how much you make. They don't call it that. They call it production, but it's really how much you make. And you'd see everybody go by the machine and kind of look down to see where they ranked. I loved it because I was usually at the top. It just fed right into my problem of how am I doing?
Yeah.
Instead of what do you want? Yeah. And you know, the ranking on Amazon, that could do it too. Because you can see where you rank as an author, you can see where your books rank, you can do book report, and all of a sudden your entire of yourself is wrapped up in a bunch of numbers instead of what you want. Right.
You know, and when really, you know, did you sell 10 books today? Did you sell 100 books today? Does that make you happy? Instead of, I'm author rank 14,000. Okay, well, how many readers did you reach? How many book pages were read this last week? Or, you know, something other than if that's what's important to you, right?
Well, here's some different questions you can ask.
Okay.
You can, how about, I
always
wrote a
love
book.
better questions.
I did the, I wrote a book I liked. I did the best I could. I'm willing to learn. I can pay my bills. I'm going to move forward from here. It seems people liked it. I might be able to do it better next time doing these things. That's a totally different approach. And it involves like recognizing what you did well. And, you know, can you pay the bills is a really good one to kind of keep in there too. Am I having a good time at it? And I am willing to listen and to try it differently. And then it's no longer about performance.
That is, yeah. It seems really, really slight, and it kind of is, because a lot of our lives are built around, you know, that that people pleasing is what pleases yourself. You know, if I'm so much of one way, then I should be happy. It's like, okay, but exactly as you're saying, is that what you want? What do you want?
Right.
So,
and if you're not happy, there's probably a good indication that you're not doing what you want. That's happy is just your inner dial saying it's pointing in the wrong direction. And it's just a chance to say, well, okay, well, I'm not happy. Why? What is it I'm doing that's making me unhappy? It's a certain stretch where you're just going to have to do it anyway. And that happens too, where there's a saying I like, I can do for a short while what if I had to do forever would be intolerable. Sometimes get up and do it. And if that's the case, then you look for people who can support you while you have to walk through this, and get rid of whatever other extraneous things, because right now is going to be a special time. And you say, okay, and it looks like it's going to last about this amount of time, and you walk through it. But try not to walk through it alone. That's the hardest thing, is if you're trying to do it alone.
So how do you find, okay, so support groups is one way to find someone to walk through it with you. And you mentioned earlier that you look for people who raise you up and catch on to your passion and where you're wanting to go in life, and not people who bring you down, are negative or complaining.
So if you go to somebody and you say, I'm really worried this book will fail, and I put my heart and soul into it. Mm-hmm. Somebody who says, oh yeah, I had that happen to me, let me tell you my story. It's not going to help you. You're going to feel probably twice as bad by the time you leave. Or you say that to someone and they say, well, you should do this, this, and this. You're probably going to feel not so hot when you leave. But because they didn't ask you what you've already done, they didn't ask you what you want, a lot of things you may have already done for all they know. And you may feel very, very frustrated by the time it's over. So what a person who just listens at first, who just listens, but directs me toward the solution. So instead of always talking about what I feel is going wrong, we're going to start talking about how we might start walking out of it. And so if I feel a book and it's another author, they might say, well, let's take a look at it. And let's look at the cover and see. And and I'm not in that genre, then maybe we'll go to Amazon and look at the top books in that genre, and we'll see what's similar to those and what's yours. And if it's not the cover, let's take a look at the blurb. And I'll ask, have you looked at the blurb? Do you want to do? You're not going to do it if you don't want to either. Maybe all the person needs is to talk, but you're looking for somebody who can listen well and is interested in solution and will not make it about themselves.
Right. They're keeping the topic on you and your book and trying to figure out how this book in particular can be as best as it can be. And maybe they're asking you about, okay, so you got this book done, you got this project done, what's the next one? But they're keeping the focus.
What is it you want to do next?
Right.
Yes. And if they do talk about themselves, it's to share their own experience as it relates to what you're going through, which is really helpful. I mean, I find it super helpful when someone says, yeah, that happened to me, and here's how I walked out of it. It's a reminder to me, most of all, that this passes. You know, it gets me out of the it'll be like this forever mode and back into, no, this is just right now, and it too shall pass.
Right. Yeah, one day it'll be in the rearview mirror, and you'll be just looking back on it as you drive forward.
And somebody will come to you and say that it's happening to them, and you'll have the moment of relief of thinking, oh, thank God, I can be of help today. And it's not me. And my mess just became my mess. Awesome.
Yeah. I like
So
that.
a lot of what I'm hearing from you tonight, really is being honest with yourself and not being afraid to admit it. If you're in a hard place, admit it to yourself and find those people who are going to understand and not talk you down, but talk you up.
Yes, and not try
that.
to jostle you, not try to jostle you out of where you are. Respect where you are, because when I say to you, so if you're saying you're here and I respect that you're here, there's two things that I'm really saying to you. It's not dangerous where you are, and I trust that you will find your way to fix it. That's really a very powerful statement that I'm subtly giving, that you're not in this place. It's a really great overall life thing to learn. It's okay. You can be where you are and get the lesson from it. And so there's a Buddhist thing that I adore. When a problem is at your, this thing is at you, it visually invite it to sit on the bench next to you and ask, what are you here to teach me? That's a old Buddhist. And I love that visual. So instead of being afraid to talk about it, pushing it away, actually because again, if the universe loves you, this is here to help you heal something. And imagine this book may fail. Okay, well, what is it here to teach me? That I'm okay, even if it does. It had nothing to do with me. It may have been the cover. By the way, that the book one, I called it The List. And I thought that sounded so spooky. And the list of what? It's just hilarious. I mean, I could go back and tell you all the different mistakes I made, and it's okay that whatever. It's just one part of an entire life, and I learned a lot from it, and I had a good time doing it, by the way, too. I mean, I was so excited to do it, and you move on from there. But yeah, you're absolutely right that this is like learning a subtler form of honesty. And I wouldn't have even known that was that's what we're talking about. But when I was to take care of others, I was lying, because I don't know what you want. You didn't ask me to help you, and it's not my business. And instead I should have been asking, what do I want the whole time? It's also okay that I wasn't doing that. It's okay. Yeah, whatever you're up to right now, it's all right. It's all right. Wherever you are is good. You don't have to get to something else in order to be okay. I know that some people watching this may feel miserable tonight and not like where they are. And I'm still going to say that where you are is okay. It's okay. And that feeling will pass, and the good place, we decide it feels good. I prefer it too because it feels good. But they're kind of the same. It's just I judge one way and the other way. It's okay. It's okay wherever you are. You aren't less than because you're feeling miserable and that person next to you is feeling great. Less than because you put out a book and it didn't make what you wanted, and the person next to you, they're soaring. You're both still the same. You can't go up or down on that. They may have had a combination of doing the cover, whatever, right, in a genre's hot, and luck played a part. Yeah, and your time may be next. So that is where being able to take it in as data helps, because you're going to make changes faster if you don't take it personally. That's one thing, is you're going to move faster because you're not first having to get over what does it say about me, and you'll ask questions. But I mean, I hope if somebody is out there listening and and is feeling pretty miserable, what they can hear is, one, they're okay. Two, try and just operate off, what am I supposed to be doing now? That's gotten me through a lot. And look for the people who will listen and direct you toward this, not commiserate. You don't need that. You already know what the problem is. You've told yourself that already. But somebody who's willing to believe with you that those little nibbles add up and helps you direct you toward this little nibble.
Well, on that subject of little nibbles add up, we did have a question about productivity hacks. So in 30 years of writing as a journalist and then later as a novelist, did you pick up any productivity hacks along the way?
So having an outline, if you're talking about authors, and you're doing a series, let's say you're doing an 8-book series, I have first I come up with who the main characters are, what is 3 attributes to each character about them that you'd want to know if they were a friend, like likes barbecue, can throw a mean fireball, and doesn't get along well with others. That's 3. And then after you get the characters, it's what's the 8-story arc? What's the 4-story arc in case this sucker's not going well and you can end it? And then what's the 1-book arc? So start with that. Then I do an outline because I like the little things that look like index cards. And I have 30 index cards, and I've broken the entire thing down. That has sped me up so much. And by the way, I do outlines with my son because he reads so much and he's brilliant. So I went and got help, and I pay him, and that helps too. That helps my productivity too, because I went and asked for help instead of, you do enough to say what now. And it's exciting when someone else that's the fun of collaborating too, is somebody else is bringing their enthusiasm and ideas you never thought of. But an outline for me, I know I was a pantser, it's a lot harder. Having an outline also, if you have to step away, or life happens, and coming back, it just makes it so much easier. But another productivity hack is, if all you can do today is 1,000 words, that 1,000 words adds up. And when you come back and you see, okay, at least I can't tell you how many times I've looked up and the book was done, but there were days built in there where I ground out 1,000 words and was thrilled I got that out. It's just what it is sometimes. Hack. And if you're really in the weeds and the deadline's coming and you think you're going to make it, try and make sure you eat. And you get out and take walks. Those to me are productivity hacks, because if you don't do them, I just think you're going to find it a bit harder. And try and keep a sense of humor. Talk to others. Don't become a hermit if possible. But do whatever's right in front of you. Does that help?
Yeah. So think about your story in terms of a longer plot, and that might give you some ideas for what's going on now that could affect the future. So outline, plot. Find a buddy that you can talk with. I know Kayleen and I, we had a good conversation the other night about a story I was working on. That conversation ended up being 3 hours of her just coming up with idea after idea after idea for scenes, because her brain works differently from mine. So if you can find someone to bounce ideas off of, they'll come and look at your outline, or they'll come and look at your scene and see things in it that you would not have thought of. And some things, like throwing spaghetti on the wall, some of it sticks and some of it works, and some of it you're like, let's keep trying, let's keep working out, let's keep thinking. And also pay attention to yourself and your needs. You need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to get out and take a walk. Don't keep trying to cram out those words all by yourself. There's your own needs that you need to attend to.
Absolutely. And some of the books we love the most, it took those people a while to craft. To craft them, and nobody will love how much they enjoy the book. Nobody, when somebody reads my books and they're not asking me how long it took me to write it or what trouble was it or did I pound it out. They're just enjoying the story, and it doesn't end. So if it takes you longer because it took you longer, it doesn't matter in the end. I just love the idea of little nibbles.
Yeah, I think that makes the whole show. Whatever you might be going through, whatever you could be going through, take the little nibbles. Ask yourself, what do I want? And answer it. And just freaking do it. And keep nibbling. If
you did 1,000 words a day, 5 days a week for a year, you'd have a massive book and a year's going to go by, and you'd have a massive book by then. You could probably call it a series in one book. So don't get tangled up in somebody else's I can do today. I cannot do 10,000 words in a day. There are days when I do 1,000 words, and I'm doing okay over here. So. And there's more like me. There's people who can do 10,000. That's great. It's amazing. I admire it. I wonder how they did it. How is their brain doing that? But you can be you. You do you. We need whoever you are. We actually need you. We need the variety. Different is great. We need the variety.
I will say there was a day when all I wrote was about 300 words. But that 300 words strengthened the story that I was writing, gargantuanly. It would not be the story that it is today had I not written that 300 words when I did. Yeah. Because then that spurned the next day when I was feeling a little better, to do more. So, it's everything Martha has been saying is just, freaking gold on her tongue. And
oh, wow. Hey.
So, there you go. Everything she's saying is awesome. Everything is awesome. We are to the end of the hour, even though I don't want to stop talking. But can you let our audience and our viewers and our listeners know where they can find you, your work, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So if you go, interestingly enough, because of all my talks at 50K where I made people cry, and I managed to do it in Scotland again too. I don't mean to, but it happens. I've started the P-Brain Society at home. I'm trying to create a place where actually people can come and have nobody else, and it's just a place to start. And you'll see it on marthacarr.com. You can find me there, and a lot of people went to a lot of trouble to listen to me when I was wound so tight and worried about everything, and kind of helped me and were patient until I learned how to relax. And I just want to give that back to others in gratitude. And so this is my way of trying to do that with the P-Brain Society. Yes, you can find me at marthacarr.com. I would love to hear from you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I may not see you or know your name, but I can tell where you are, and you just don't know what's right around the corner, so you don't give up right before the miracle.
That's right.
And she hits it out of the park with more beautiful words.
Yeah.
On that very heartwarming note, thank you so much for joining us tonight, listening. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the little bell, all that good stuff, so you know we've got more shows going on. And yeah, give us a shout out in the comments so that we know if you want more of these, because we love doing them. We love digging in deep to the topics that don't often get enough room that they should. So anyway, for Lauren Moore, I'm Kayleen Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on your writer's journey. Be sure to come back and check us out next week when we're going to talk about some reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. Good night, you guys.
Night.